I was never the one they expected to succeed. In a family where everything revolved around Savannah, her looks, her grace, her perfect Instagram life, there was no space left for me. My father's praise was always reserved for her. I remember the endless nights I spent in my room, working on coding assignments, designing websites no one would ever notice. No one asked what I was doing. No one even cared. Growing up, I learned to be invisible. Savannah, with her ballet classes, private tutors, and Ivy League dreams, was the golden child. Meanwhile, I was the shadow, the quiet one, the afterthought. My stepmother would always smile at her, talk about her future, and then glance over at me like she didn't know what to say. "You're strong, Harper. You'll figure it out," my father said, time and time again. He didn't know how much those words hurt. To be told I was strong, so I didn't need help, while Savannah was handed everything. I didn't fight it. Not at first. Instead, I withdrew. I spent my nights coding, building things, learning things they never thought I could. I didn't tell them. What was the point? They wouldn't have cared. They never did. And still, I kept going. I built my world piece by piece in the silence of my room. I was never going to be the one they expected. And maybe that's okay. But I was going to be something. And I would do it alone, quietly, with no applause, no validation from them. Because I didn't need it. I was stronger than they gave me credit for, and that's how I would prove it. Savannah was everything I wasn't. Perfectly polished, effortlessly adored, and always in the spotlight. She walked through life with an air of confidence like the world was made for her. And maybe it was. My parents looked at her like she was a miracle, while I was just there. She was the daughter everyone expected, the one they paraded around. At family gatherings with her designer clothes, her flawless makeup, her curated Instagram posts, showing a life most could only dream of. Every moment of hers seemed to be wrapped in gold. Meanwhile, my life was anything but perfect. I worked 2 jobs to survive. I had to take night classes at community college because there was no money for me to go to the school I wanted. I ate half the meals I needed to, just to make ends meet. And I never told them. They wouldn't have cared anyway. I wasn't the one worth investing in. They had their golden child, and I had nothing. Savannah posted every picture like it was a moment to be adored, while I hid behind my screen, coding, working, trying to get a glimpse of a future they didn't think I was capable of. She was the family's princess, the one who had everything handed to her, the one who would be celebrated, no matter what. And I was the quiet one, the one who stayed in the shadows, unnoticed, never getting a single compliment or a single acknowledgement for anything. But the thing is, I didn't want her life. I didn't want the praise that came so easily to her. What I wanted, deep down, was to be seen for what I could do, what I could build on my own, without anyone's help. It wasn't about her. It was about me. And I was going to show them. I never asked for much. All I wanted was a chance. Just one chance to prove that I wasn't invisible. But the world, or at least my family, had made it clear that I didn't deserve one. I was always the backup plan, the second choice. My stepmother had her sights on Savannah's future, and my father. He didn't even see me. His words still sting. "You're strong, Harper. You'll figure it out." Strong. It was as if being strong was my only value. Not smart, not capable. Just strong enough to handle it on my own. And I did. I handled it. Quietly, invisibly. While Savannah went to private tutors, weekend getaways with family friends, and wore the latest fashion, I sat at my worn-out desk, textbooks open, no one to talk to but the silence. I taught myself coding, built websites that no one ever noticed, learned design through trial and error. My fingers bled for it, but they never bled for me. The family's praises always went to her. She was the bright one, the beautiful one, the one who belonged. But I did it. I kept working, kept proving that I could. Every late night, every hour, spent hunched over a screen, every rejection from scholarships and programs that I wasn't enough for. I took it all and kept moving forward. There was no applause, no "good job, Harper," just the slow, persistent hum of my laptop and the quiet echo of my own determination. I was strong, but more than that, I was quietly resilient. I didn't need their approval to know my worth. I wasn't waiting for them to notice. I had already started building a life for myself, one they would never see coming. I don't think I ever expected anyone to believe in me. Not really. But then, out of nowhere, I got the email. The scholarship offers. It was the kind of opportunity that could change everything, if I could make it happen. But there was a part of me that feared telling anyone. What if they laughed? What if they didn't care? After all, my father had always told me, "You're strong, Harper. You'll figure it out." This was my moment, my chance to prove that I had more to offer than they ever thought. But something deep inside told me not to share it. I kept it to myself, like I always did. The letter, with its bold, official language, sat on my desk for days before I finally allowed myself to really read it over and over again. A prestigious tech scholarship, one that would take me to a university none of them thought I could ever afford. I wanted to shout with joy. I wanted to run into the living room and tell my parents, but I couldn't. Not yet. Savannah, with her polished world, had always been the one to get everything she wanted. It was her turn to shine, and I didn't want to take that from her. But this was mine. I had earned this, quietly, without anyone's help. This was my chance to step into a world I had fought for, fought alone. So I packed my bags, kept my head down, and accepted the scholarship. I didn't need their approval anymore. This was my victory, my quiet triumph. And I would make it count, without them ever knowing, without them ever seeing what I could do. I was ready to take that next step into a future they never saw coming. Every time I saw Savannah's life on Instagram, it felt like a punch to the gut. She posted picture-perfect photos, weekend getaways in designer clothes, her perfect smile flashing. Under the California sun, her carefree moments at private colleges with lawns that stretched for miles. It was as if she was born for the spotlight, and the world was waiting to adore her. Meanwhile, I was in my tiny, cramped apartment, scribbling notes while balancing 2 jobs just to make rent. Savannah had everything handed to her. Her education was paid for, her internships were prestigious, her life a curated highlight reel of success. It was hard to not resent it, though I never showed it. I couldn't. I wasn't the one who got to complain. I was the one who had to figure it out, who had to make things work no matter how hard it got. So, I did. But the distance between us kept growing. I could feel it. Her world was so far removed from mine. Her experiences weren't mine to share. The dinners with her friends, the family trips, the warm embraces, the certainty of a life mapped out. And me? I spent nights in front of a laptop, coding through exhaustion, my stomach growling, calculating how many meals I could afford. I didn't have a phone full of vacation photos. I didn't have that kind of luxury. I had to sacrifice every day just to keep my head above water. But what they didn't see, what Savannah didn't see, was how my own success was slowly building behind the scenes. My exhaustion, my quiet battles, they were creating something greater. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't Instagram-worthy. But it was mine. And one day, it would show. When the time came, it would be my moment, not in their world, but in mine. I didn't have much, but I had this, an idea. It was simple, born out of frustration and late nights spent scrolling through my laptop, wishing for something that could make my life a little easier. I needed a way to stay connected with other students, to share resources and support in a way that was practical. So, I started coding. No fanfare, no audience. Just me, sitting in front of a screen, figuring things out one line of code at a time. There were so many nights where I thought I was going to give up. My eyes burned, my hands ached, and doubt kept whispering in the back of my mind. But I couldn't stop. I kept pushing through, even when I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. Each failure felt personal, like another reminder that maybe I wasn't cut out for this after all. But then something clicked. The app began to take shape. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was mine. I tested it, fixed bugs, iterated over and over again. I knew it had potential, even if no one else did. This wasn't something my family would understand. They were too busy keeping their eyes on Savannah's perfect, pre-planned future to notice my small, quiet victories. But that didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that I had created something real. I had built something that mattered. The app slowly gained traction, quietly at first, but then it took off. Gen Z students began using it. They saw its value. I started getting feedback, messages of appreciation. People noticed. I was being seen for something other than the afterthought I'd always been. It wasn't the world-changing success I dreamed of, but it was a start. And in that moment, I knew that I was on the path to something bigger, something I had made happen on my own. The first few weeks were slow, so slow that it almost felt like no one cared. But then, something shifted. The app started to spread, word of mouth, student to student, until one day I checked the numbers and saw them, downloads, signups, buzz. The notifications came in faster than I could process them. Users were reaching out, telling me how much it had helped them organize study groups, share resources, and connect in a way that felt real, not filtered. I couldn't help but smile, a real, wide grin that I hadn't allowed myself in a long time. I was still invisible to my family, of course. They were too busy with their own lives to notice what was happening. They wouldn't understand the late nights, the coding, the small victories that were slowly starting to add up. They wouldn't care, and I couldn't afford to wait for them to catch up with me. But in the quiet moments, when I'd look at my app's growth, I knew something was happening. I was building something more than just a tech project. I was building a bridge to a world where I didn't have to prove myself to anyone except me, and that felt powerful. The feedback kept coming, and soon enough, investors were knocking on my door. They wanted to know how they could help take it further, how they could get involved. I couldn't help but wonder if they were seeing the same thing I was, that this was bigger than just an app. It was a glimpse into a future where I called the shots, where I wasn't fighting to be seen anymore. My success wasn't just a quiet victory anymore. It was becoming undeniable. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was finally being seen. Not by my family, but by the world that mattered. It was the day I had been working toward for years, but I never imagined it would come like this. Graduation was supposed to be a simple formality, something I had to get through. I never pictured it as the moment when everything would change. But there I was, standing among thousands of students in caps and gowns, feeling like an imposter. My family wasn't there, at least not the way I needed them to be. My father and stepmother were busy with their own lives, absorbed in Savannah's latest accomplishments. She was the one they cared about, the one they invested their attention in. I was just there. But something unexpected happened. As the ceremony began, I could feel the eyes on me. The chancellor's voice echoed through the auditorium, and I heard my name. Harper Ellis, founder of the fastest-growing campus startup. I froze. Was I hearing that right? My heart raced. There was no going back now. The applause was deafening. My name hung in the air like a promise I had been carrying all these years. But all I could think about was the look on my father's face. The look of surprise, of shock. He hadn't seen me. He hadn't seen what I had built. And in that moment, I realized how little that mattered. I walked across the stage in a thrifted blazer, my hands trembling. The applause felt like a roar, but it was not for them. It was for me, for everything I had done in silence, without their approval, without their recognition. I had earned this moment on my own terms, and now, for the first time, I was going to let the world see me. It wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. And I had arrived. I stood at the podium, my heart pounding. The weight of the moment felt almost too heavy, but I didn't back down. I had waited my entire life for this. Not for the applause, not for the spotlight, but for this quiet stand in front of everyone who had doubted me. Sometimes, I began, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. We grow up thinking we have to wait for the world to see us. We think we need validation from the people who should love us, support us. But what I've learned is that sometimes the world isn't paying attention, and that's okay, because what matters most is how you see yourself. I could feel the room fall silent. The faces in the crowd blurred, but I could feel their stares. I knew they were listening. I spent so many years thinking I wasn't enough. I spent so many nights wondering why I wasn't like her, why I didn't get the things she got, the attention she got, the love she got. And it hurt. But here's the thing: I found a way. I didn't wait for anyone to hand me success. I built it, quietly, slowly, and it wasn't easy. It never is. But I'm here today, and that's enough. Because no one else gets to decide my worth. I do. The words weren't rehearsed. They came from somewhere deep, from the place I had hidden for years, the place that had always been overlooked and underestimated, but not anymore. I finished the speech without waiting for applause, but it came anyway. Not from the family I'd longed for approval from, but from the crowd who understood. And for the first time in my life, I knew this. Victory, this moment, was mine. And I didn't need anyone to validate it for me. I had built this, from nothing, for me. As I walked off the stage, the applause echoed in my ears, but it felt distant. The weight of the moment wasn't in the clapping or the flashing cameras. It was in the quiet, steady realization that I had done it. I had made it to the top without ever looking back, without ever needing permission or validation. It wasn't about the approval of the family that had never truly seen me. It wasn't about the world's recognition or the applause. It was about me, and I had fought for this, every step of the way. Savannah was standing off to the side, her smile frozen, her phone still in her hand. I caught a glimpse of her as I passed, but I didn't stop. She wasn't the one I had to impress. She wasn't the reason I'd made it this far. I had done it for myself, for the quiet moments, the nights spent doubting myself, the loneliness that no one could see. My father and stepmother were there too, standing among the crowd, their faces pale with shock. They didn't know how to react, how to process the fact that their quiet daughter, the one they had overlooked for so long, had just stolen the spotlight. For a moment, I almost felt bad for them, but that passed quickly. They had never believed in me. Not really. And that was okay. Because I had finally learned to believe in myself. I didn't look back as I walked off the stage. There was no need. I had already left them behind. This was my moment. And I had earned it, not because of them, but in spite of them. This was My victory. Quiet, steady, and powerful. And as I stepped into the future, I knew one thing for certain. I was never going to be invisible again.